And, it comes off as we're the center of the universe. And that's not necessarily how I'm viewing it. What I wanted to, I guess, romanticize, for lack of a better term, is to how truly unique we are, and how if it took impossible odds to be here and somebody had to be first, why not us? Why aren't we the great explorers, right? So we don't just eat, sleep, and procreate. We want to build the next technologies. In the 1400s, when Columbus, he could have had just sat on his farm, right? But instead he wanted to risk his life to go across the ocean. We have this inherent built-in drive to do the next thing, to build the next thing, to see the next thing. Maybe we're the great explorers, and maybe we're the aliens.
And maybe not.
Welcome back to In the Booth. I'm Shawn Booth, and thank you guys for listening. Wherever you're tuning in from, maybe you're watching on YouTube, maybe you're listening on Spotify, maybe you're listening on iHeartRadio, wherever it is, we appreciate it. We appreciate all the support so far. You guys are awesome, and hopefully you're having a great day. I'm having a great day. I'm having a great week. I just had some family in town, had the niece and nephew, had my dad in town for golf, so my heart is full. I think the kids say the vibes are high. And maybe you're not having such a good day. And if you aren't having a good day, just remember there are 3 phases to life. Phase 1.
Oh, shit.
You're good.
Oh my
Here we go. Phase 1 is when you're going through some shit. Phase 2, you just came out of some shit. And phase 3, you're headed towards some shit.
Damn, it's all around shit, huh?
All around shit. We'll make it. We're making it. We've got a jam-packed house today, and I'm excited for this one. This is going to be a fun episode. To my left, the woman, the myth, the legend. We've got SamCat, a.k.a. Rash Cat, a.k.a. Pink Cat, a.k.a. Camo Cat, a.k.a. Catamaran Cat, a.k.a. Poop Cat, Denim Cat. Folks, she's rocking a sundress. I've never seen her in a sundress, I don't think, with flowers on it. I don't know what type of flowers those are. And she's got some leather flip-flops. Those aren't flip-flops, but some type of flip-flop sandal. Toes are painted pink. She is here. She is fancy today. And she came in the door. Usually, she comes busting through any door she walks into. Today, she came in hot. She's going to be frazzled cat today.
I am frazzled cat today. I will take that.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I just woke up from a nap, and so I did come in awfully frazzled. But I feel like a little more calm now that we're getting started.
We're getting started. You're back. Where were you?
Where wasn't I? I did 3 and 3. So I did 3 shows in 3 different states, hopped on a plane and flew to Chicago for a childhood friend's wedding this weekend. And then I ended up staying an extra day because a lot of my friends are rapidly procreating and I wanted to meet their children. So then I got back to Nashville last night, headed to Carmen's Kettlebell Club, and now I'm here with you.
I saw a picture on your Instagram with a child, and he, correct?
I don't know. Which one was it?
There was one where he was standing in between your legs, spiked hair.
Oh, no, that's a girl.
Okay.
That's McKenna.
Sorry. I keep doing that.
No.
I keep
her mom says, oh my gosh, my son. So she says the same thing. You're good.
All right. Because last week at our pickleball tournament, I went up to somebody and I was like, oh, he's adorable. And she was like, it's a she.
Yes.
I'm like, ooh, sorry. But anyways, that kid, she was adorable.
Yes.
She also looked like a 65-year-old man at the same time.
Yes. She's the cutest little double chin you could ever, like the cutest kid. The 12 and a half hours that I was hanging out with her, we were really, really trying to get her to crawl. She's like so close. It's actually infuriating. It's like, just put your knees down. Like she would do 1, 2, and then kind of sit and be like, hey, what are you guys doing? So I am anxiously awaiting for the video evidence because I feel like the crawling's going to happen like this week.
Yeah. And you're going to miss it.
I know. Well, thanks for reminding me. But it is something to be said. Like there's such a fuzzy place in my soul that my childhood friends are now having children. And it's just like, I don't know how to explain it. I feel like it's the closest I've ever been to being like an aunt. Like my cousins have had kids too. And I feel like that's just special. And it's different than just someone you know having a kid. Like Caitlin, who's McKenna's mom, had been my best friend for forever. It's just like so special to see her. I'm like, oh my gosh, your mom and I used to ride around in a red minivan and like just be idiots. And now here you are. So cute. and looking like a 65-year-old man, apparently.
Yeah,
Little nugget.
in the nicest way possible. The cutest 65-year-old man I've ever seen. You're Auntie Cat, Aunt Cat.
Mhm.
And you're
No, I was Auntie Sam.
Okay.
I'm Sammy there. Nobody calls me Sam Cat at home.
That's what we're trying. If you're listening, if you are a dear friend to SamCat, if you grew up with SamCat, please start calling her SamCat. Just text her SamCat for me. It'll make me feel very, very good about myself. Well, welcome back, SamCat. I don't know how you do the traveling that you do. It seems like you are just in this part of the country, that part of the country, here, and then all of a sudden you're at the gym, and then you're in here, and you come busting through the doors, like I said. I can't keep up with you. I personally hate traveling. I like the destination. I like exploring, but getting from point A to point B is just the most uncomfortable and stressful thing, I think.
I do think yes. First of all, I will agree with you. Second of all, I will say it's something that you do get better at. The more you do, just like anything else, you do practice traveling. I would consider myself a professional traveler, whether it be by bus, train, plane, it doesn't matter. I feel like I've gotten a lot of tips and tricks just by trial and error over the past, I guess now it's been a year and a half that I've been traveling pretty much nonstop on tours. And there's definitely more stressful days than others, but I personally enjoy it. I do enjoy the chaotic hustle and bustle. I don't, necessarily enjoy all of the delays and things that come with it, but I love being in Cheyenne, Wyoming one day, Nashville the next day, Reading, Pennsylvania the next day, which is what I did last week. We squeezed in an episode with Lauren Lane. And then I immediately drove to Mount Juliet to get on a bus from our bus call and went over to the East Coast. So I like that.
I could do the bus. I just can't do the plane traveling.
Okay. Why?
Everything about it. First of all, do you drive your car or usually take an Uber?
I take an Uber.
Okay. I usually drive my car.
Well, there's your first problem.
So first problem, not off to a good start.
So you're 0 for 1, all right?
Trying to find a parking spot is a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
You do get a parking spot. I'm usually rushed. I'm like the last minute type of guy when it comes to this stuff. And so finding a parking spot is miserable. And then you have to walk about 1.5 miles just to get to the terminal.
Have you been to the new B&A terminal? Like all of that new construction that they've done?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that very in-depth answer. Anyways, what's next on your list of why traveling is terrible?
You know what I did last week? Because I went home, or a couple weeks ago, I went for a wedding party, just a dinner. Mm-hmm. I valeted my car. I've never done that. I didn't even know they had valet at the airport. And I valeted it because I was there traveling for like 12 hours. And it was actually cheap. Wasn't that bad. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, I think that people are taking too much advantage of the carry-on suitcase rule.
Absolutely. I've seen it with my own eyes.
I think every suitcase should go underneath the plane.
This brings me to a very important point that you're going to be a father soon. You know those games that have like the plastic cut out of shapes and you have to stick them in the holes that match the shape of which you're holding in your hand?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? More adults need to do that because when you're holding a suitcase the size of a small elephant and you're trying to shove it in the overhead bin, that's not going to work. So they must have skipped those games as a child because it's just like blatantly obvious that you're not going to be able to fit that up there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. But what I feel stressed out for them, because I feel like they're panicking.
They are.
And they think that like they're on this big grand stage and everybody's looking at them and they're panicking, and you got people waiting behind them. You got people just sitting there staring at them and they can't get their bag in. They got to go all the way down to find more space. I'm like, why don't we just throw everything underneath the plane?
I think that it's obviously personal preference, but I think a lot of people, like I check a bag and carry on a bag, I think equally. It just depends on honestly how many hair products I have. Depends on what my hair situation is. That is pretty much going to make or break whether I'm going to check a bag or put it above my head when I get on the plane. You probably don't have the same situation because you don't have this mop of hair, but it's the liquids and stuff that they don't let you get through, aerosols, gels, all that stuff. That is what determines whether I'm going to check a bag or not clothes or anything else.
Exactly. I always check a bag. I get a suitcase because of that. I don't have like the airplane bottled size shampoo and all that stuff. And I also bring a ton of shoes with me because I feel like I have like 3 different workout shoes, boots, sneakers.
It's fair.
It's fair. So I just bring a backpack so I can put it right underneath the front of my seat. I got my laptop there, some snacks.
You're quick and mobile and ready to go.
And I'm ready to go in case of an emergency.
You're going to bring your snacks in your backpack with you if there's an emergency.
Yes.
Okay, you're going to be the first one to sink, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, water evacuation? You mean a crash? I love that. If we have a water evacuation, I'm pretty sure if we land on water, we might not all be around to evacuate. But I don't know. I don't want to find that out. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. To that point, though, how come every plane doesn't have a parachute?
I mean, maybe they do. And it's just for the pilots and the flight attendants, and we just don't know about it.
The small planes now, if you've seen on TikTok, they will have a parachute deploy, and it kind of just coasts down.
That seems pretty smart.
Yeah. Maybe we should get those.
I'm sure someone smarter than us knows that like the aerodynamics of that doesn't work, but I don't know. I feel like maybe we should do some research.
Well, we have some smart people in studio. We'll ask them that here in a little bit.
Okay.
Airplane etiquette.
Whew.
Can we talk about that? Because there is nothing more frustrating than sitting in your seat, waiting your turn to stand up and leave. And then you stand up and people from behind you just start going down the aisle.
I was going to say, I thought you were going to ask me to do a final four of things that irritate people when they travel. And my number one was going to be that. Because I feel like, and this is me being empathetic and also thankful that I have the opportunity to travel a lot. So I do feel like I said, I practice it a lot. So I've gotten better at it. So a lot of things that you may find irritating when you're traveling, especially in an airport, you got to take a second and think maybe this person's never done this before. You don't know if they've ever been on a plane or if they haven't done it in 20 years. Imagine all of the technology and everything that has changed. So when I am standing in line, inevitably in like 3 days, I'll be doing it again. I really do try and like take a deep breath. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe they've never traveled before. So I think it's like, oh, how lucky am I that I do this every 3 days, that I know how to do this with my eyes closed. And I just try and talk myself into that mindset. It makes your day happier. It makes it better. However, the whole line and airplane etiquette to me feels like it should be common sense because it has nothing to do with being on an airplane. It has everything to do with coexisting with other humans around you. And that is the only difference, is that you're on an airplane. Like if I am in 15 and you are in 17, what comes before 17? 15. Get the F out of the way. Like you don't get to get off the plane because I'm getting heated.
Yeah.
Getting heated.
You're trying to like not get people mad.
No, I'm not.
You're trying to say that, oh, maybe they don't know though. No, they do know because they just watched the first 14 aisles do it.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying things that happen. No. Don't twist my words, Booth. I'm saying that things like security and stuff inside the airport. I'm like, maybe they've never done this before. So I try, like when I'm waiting in security lines specifically, what I'm saying all bets are off is when you're actually on the airplane, the things that are freaking irritating are just things that you do to coexist with humans. So I'm saying, no, you should know better. You did just watch 14 people do it, and like keep your shoes on, things like that. Like don't kick the seat in front of you. That's human decency. That has nothing to do with being on an airplane.
A lot of etiquette. What if somebody's in the back of the plane? They're like, oh, I'm trying to get to my connector. I need to get through. I'm like, well, we're all trying to get to our connectors.
Here's the thing though. If I would say that I agree with you if I didn't just go to St. Croix and almost get royally dry fisted by freaking American Airlines because they changed my flight. And I was trying to very nicely ask the flight attendant, I'm like, is there anything you can do? Because sometimes they're like, hey, if you don't have a connection, would you guys just be good humans and sit for a second and let us get these people off the plane? Let me tell you, American Airlines does not do that. They do not care. They're like, yo, you should have run faster. I'm like, oh, cool. Thank you so much for your help. So yes, I do think that there are circumstances that I would be willing to help someone with that, but not the guy that's just like, my wife is waiting for me. I'm like, yeah, everybody's trying to get somewhere, buddy. Sit your ass down.
Yeah.
You ever elbow someone like that?
Brings up a good point. Armrest. Who gets the armrest?
I think you share. No? Well, I always sit in a window, so I'm always leaning over. I never really use the middle armrest.
I think if you get the middle seat, you should have access to both armrests.
Yeah, because you're in the middle seat.
If you're on the right side, you get the right one. If you're on the left side, you get the left one. That seems like a perfectly acceptable thing.
I feel like, are you a culprit of this? I don't know. I've never been on an airplane with you, but my God. The other thing, I feel like this just came up to me. I'm going to pick on men because I don't see any ladies doing it and I'm wearing a dress, so I can't really do it. But how big are your balls that you have to sit in a middle split, sir?
You need some room. You can't just sit like this.
You do not need to be spread eagle at any point on an airplane. Why? Do you think it's okay for you to spill into my little tiny seat that I'm already cramped in? I freaking hate that. Actually, that might be my number one over cutting in line.
Well, I think you just have the amount of room About hip width apart.
Sure, I'll give him that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't need to be in a middle split where your kneecap is pushing my thunder thigh over into my space. Absolutely not. When is that appropriate?
Well, what about, no, it's never appropriate.
Thank you.
Yeah. Never
Rude.
appropriate. Very rude.
Also inconsiderate.
What about leaning back? That's the hot topic I always see. And I'm like, you have a button on your chair.
I agree. There's a button there and you're allowed to recline. That's just part of the experience. If you don't like that, don't take a plane.
But a lot of people get very fired up about that. And you see people hitting chairs in front of them. I'm like, they paid for their ticket. They have the access to lean back. Let them lean back. You should just lean back with them.
So they're saying that you're not allowed to lean your chair back because it
There's people, I'd say probably more than half of the flyers don't think that you should be allowed to lean back.
Okay, well, those people are dumb. Next. That's a dumb thing. If you have access to it and I paid for this seat to sit here and I'm doing well within the rules of pushing that little silver button and being able to recline, what, an inch and a half? Grow up. You're fine.
You ever fly in a pod? That's a game changer.
I have not flown on a pod. I've only ever flown first class probably like 2 times in my life. And then I did get a very spacious seat when I flew to Australia with my parents. Thanks, Dad. But I've never been in a enclosed pod. No, I'm not quite that status yet.
Yeah, we'll get you there.
I think, maybe by my 35th birthday, I will have done that.
How old are you?
I'm going to be 33 in a week.
Wow, you're getting old.
It stresses me out. 33 is it's just 33. Wow. I feel like I should have, I don't know. I don't even know what I feel, but I feel it.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. You go right over there?
I'm fine. You reminded me how old I'm going to be. Anyways, the number one biggest pet peeve that I have for flying. Mm-hmm. Can we not fart in the plane?
I mean,
again, that's just common human decency.
This is what we need. All right. Remember when we were kids and if you went swimming, you heard the rumor that hey, Mr. Johnson's got that chlorine that if you pee, it's going to turn purple around you. We need something installed in the airplanes that if you fart in the plane, it presents a mist around your body so everybody knows who it is. So you can be publicly humiliated. Okay,
but what if they can't help it?
They got to help it.
You've never just leaked a fart accidentally?
No, of course.
Oh, so you would just withstand public humiliation? What if you had a stomach ache?
I mean, I sit there sick? And I'm just I'm like, you get hit in the face. And I look around. I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, really? I'm like, I get so mad.
Stand up. Who did this? Yeah. Let me smell your butt.
It's terrible.
How do you think the flight attendants feel? I love a sassy flight attendant. I love a man or a woman. It doesn't even matter. I feel like they're equally mixed now. I feel like it used to be just women. Now, this day and age, it's everybody. I love someone that just kindly puts their foot down, puts a person who's mostly being ridiculous in place with a smile on their face. Thank you so much. I love that. It's basically bless your heart. I'm just get it, Sarah. Let's go.
I feel like the perks are amazing to be a flight attendant. You get to travel for free, right? All over the world. I think it's an awesome job. But nowadays, I feel like it's just so stressful.
You literally started this podcast with saying that you hate traveling on an airplane. And now you're saying, oh, wow, being a flight attendant is a great job.
If you like travel and you don't have to pay for it, it's fantastic. But I would never want to do it because I want to be able to deal with the people. And now everybody's got their phones out too. They're waiting to get a reaction. And it's just a tough thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that every situation now though? Instead of helping, people will film it.
I'd rather be the pilot. That'd be a badass job.
Hell yeah. Hey, you're not dead. You got time.
Yeah, I could do that.
Do you feel like you would really ever actually be a pilot? I don't feel like you have the concentration to be able to do that.
Oh,
you'd be like, we gotta work in some warm-ups here. They're like, no, Shawn, just fly the plane. You don't need to do any high knees here, actually.
Isn't it crazy though that we have humans that are just regular humans? It's like watching that movie with Denzel Washington. The guy was blowing lines all night party, and then he goes and he hops on a plane. They could be doing that. We don't know. We just put our full trust into whoever the pilot is. Here we go, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, most of the time you don't even see him.
No.
You don't even
I like to see the pilots. If I'm looking at a pilot and he looks like he's about 55 to 60, gray hair, nice guy, I'm like, okay, I feel comfortable.
I also like to look at the pilot, but for much different reason. I'm like, hey, what are you doing when we land? Not the 55-year-olds. Sorry, that's a little too old for me, out of my price range, but
What if he's 6'5" and looks like JJ Watt?
He would probably be married and I would congratulate his wife. That's what. Like, good for her.
That's my take on flying.
I do think you got to be a little lenient on the experience getting to the plane, but everything on the plane is fair game.
I agree with that. Another way of traveling, instead of taking a plane, could possibly be taking a UFO.
Sorry, what?
And ladies and gentlemen, there has been a lot of talk lately in the news, on social media, about UFOs and about aliens. It's becoming prevalent everywhere we turn, it seems like. And also last week, we had David Grush, who is the official whistleblower, who seems to be a very credible guy. All right. And he was testifying under oath before Congress. And he's gone through the whole whistleblower process, saying that we have recovered alien craft and that biologics were recovered from these crafts.
Okay.
All right.
This is all news to me, so I'm not trying to be sarcastic when I say I have no idea what you're talking about, but I am following.
Okay.
Okay, so break it down for me.
Yeah, breaking it down. I
Got it.
just broke it down for you.
Got it. Yeah, no, that's all the information we have. He just testified there's a UFO and there's what'd you say, mechanics in there or something?
Yeah, biomechanics. Okay. Yeah.
All right, I'm on it. I'm good.
Basically, saying that we are in possession of UAPs, UFOs.
What is a UAP?
Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Okay, sorry. Can you say
Ladies
that
and
one more
gentlemen,
time?
welcome Carmen Morgan to the show.
Okay. Hey, Carmen. What did you just say?
Yeah.
Unidentified aerial phenomenon. They changed it.
Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Yeah,
Correct.
to
So it's
UAP.
something.
So it's UFO.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, they just changed the name to be spicy. Okay, got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Following.
So this guy was talking in front of Congress about it, right? Also, this is another guy, Ryan Graves, who was a military personnel. He served for 10 years as a Navy pilot.
Okay.
And he's come out numerous times, basically also in front of Congress, voicing his concerns and saying that over 30 aircrew and military veterans have also spoken to him and confided in him about encounters that they've had in the air. So basically being like, there's stuff going on up there. He believes that we're hiding it, the government, and concerned for our safety. So making kind of a big push to make it a, I guess, known thing out there and trying to get to the bottom of it.
Are these two gentlemen like working together? Or are these two separate people? Okay.
Yeah.
They're not like a team.
No, two
Got
separate
it.
people.
Okay.
So this is how we got here to this podcast.
All right.
All right.
Now I'm up to speed. I've been out of town. Apparently a lot has happened.
Yeah. So last year, I was talking with Carmen Morgan. You guys have met her before. She was on the podcast, my business partner. She'd sent me one of these podcasts that might have actually been Ryan Graves, who was on Joe Rogan. And
We love
being
a Joe
like,
Rogan.
do you believe in UAPs or UFOs? And I was, kind of mixed about it. And I was leaning more towards yes.
Okay.
I think it's crazy not to believe that how big our universe is, how big space is, that there's not other life out there.
I completely, wholeheartedly agree.
So I was in a cottage. This was for a wedding of mine. There was like 6 or 7 other people in this cottage. And I was like, hey, I just listened to this podcast. Do any of you guys believe in this stuff? And they all said categorically, no, absolutely not. That's crazy. You're crazy for thinking that. Don't believe it. They're laughing, basically making fun of me. It's like, okay. So we started a group chat and I was the only guy in this group chat. So for the past year, anytime an article showed up about these, I would just send it to the group. They'd all laugh at me, whatever. So last week, all this stuff came out with the guys I was talking about. And I was like, all right, I'm going to put Carmen into this group thread.
Okay.
All right. Because I know she's a believer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to throw Jeff into this thread. Jeff Tetrault.
Welcome, Jeff.
And Jeff Tetrault is on the show right now as well. He's a member of the gym. And these two right here are both very, very intelligent people. So I purposefully put them into the group chat and just kind of watched from afar as they went back and forth with their reasonings on why they believe or don't believe in UFOs and aliens.
What a Sean Booth thing to do, to absolutely strike a match, toss it, and just stand there giggling.
100%.
You are the man. Oh, you guys ran out of gasoline? Here's some. I'm going to spray it on this fire.
Yep.
Exactly. That's exactly what I did. And so for the past week at the gym, we've been going back and forth. These two are in the lobby going at it. I'm putting up graphics on the big screens for when Jeff walks in with aliens and UFOs. So I was like, why don't we just have a nice, healthy debate and settle this on in the booth? And that's where we are, SamCat.
So Jeff is team, this does not exist. And Carmen is team, it does.
We will let Jeff introduce himself right now.
Okay.
And we'll give him the floor.
I'm interested. Let's go, Jeff.
First and foremost, I can't believe I fell for that. He absolutely threw a stick of dynamite in the group chat and walked away. And I fell hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am the CEO of Dumbstruck, which is an artificial intelligence software company that tests the emotional efficacy of ads before they are aired on TV or run online using the study of human emotion. It does not at all make me an expert in UFOs.
That is correct.
I am not a physicist or a mathematician or even a scientist for that matter. But I think I have a good enough background in observable data to make an argument as to Carmen's delusions.
All right. There we go. So a very intelligent guy. And then our other UFO expert, Carmen Morgan.
I really liked the show The X-Files. I will watch every alien and or monster hybrid movie in theaters. That is something I'm willing to invest in. Not sure if that makes me an expert. In fact, it does not. I want to go ahead and say that in terms of UFO experts, there are people miles above me in terms of the research they've put into it, the hours of study, the consideration of everything we have on videotape, etc. However,
none of them returned my emails or DMs. So this is what we got.
Wait, Carmen, you just missed like a perfect joke that you made accidentally when you said there are people miles above me, but like aliens. Like, did you even know you made that joke?
I did not.
See, you're so smart. You didn't even know you're funny too. Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah. So this is who we got.
But I do love aliens. So yeah, let's go.
All right. So then I'm going to kick this off and I'm going to start with Jeff. If you had to explain your biggest and best points of why you believe that we're the only people here.
Yeah, sure. So there's a ton of direct evidence and indirect evidence. And all kidding aside, in the group chat, Carmen raised some amazing points about the indirect evidence of UFOs. The Graves interviews and camera from the plane, as well as the congressional testimony, all fine and well. Really interesting indirect evidence. But when you hold a belief with the lack of direct evidence, that's essentially faith. That's like saying, because I see miracles, that must mean God exists, right? Without actually seeing or hearing. The biggest problem that I have is we've essentially crowdsourced aliens. There's 6 billion people on this planet with smartphones, all with camera capabilities. And all that we've come up with are these flying Tic Tacs, these grainy videos, who tend to only land near American Air Force bases, right? And there's no direct footage of crafts, of beings, of anything of the such. So my biggest, overarching argument is that there's no direct evidence that they've been here.
So when you hear somebody like Ryan Graves, who's very credible, who had 2 tours overseas and says that 30 of his military personnel vets have also seen all types of crazy stuff up there in the sky, you think it's just what?
I have no doubt that they're seeing something. Whenever you have credible people all collaborating along the same story, there's no doubt they're seeing something. But to be able to, not know what it is and point to, oh, it must be extraterrestrial because we don't know what it is a pretty loose argument, right? You can't just blame everything that you don't know on ET.
Carmen.
Well, so I think direct evidence, I think that's a tough argument there, mainly because Ryan Graves and all of the pilots, right? The way their system works is it got upgraded. I want to say their FLIR system got upgraded in like 2014. This was the first time that they were able to start picking up these images with their war crafts, right? So their planes and things like that are all instruments that are used for war. They're not instruments that are used for scientific exploration. They're not instruments or machines that are used to take really nice pictures and videos. They are meant to hold a target and fire a weapon. So you are never going to have a perfectly clear picture because that's not what that fighter jet is designed to do. When they got the upgraded systems, that's immediately when everything started being reported. They have a system called a FLIR system that he explains, where essentially all of the data that is collected. So when they do record that, gimbal is one of the videos that have come from one of the pilots that he has worked with or been in service with. That is captured on their plane's screen, radar, infrared. It also tracks all the data points in terms of telling you what position it's in comparatively to the horizon. If it's X amount of, you can kind of estimate a size because of the markers that they have that are set on a target. If you have set the target to X size, then you would know that what's inside those little lines is going to be around that size. That is all reported back. So that is all collected. That is all data. However, it is classified. So it is not direct. I think that's pretty direct there. That is just, we don't have access to that. And there's the argument that we shouldn't have access to it, which I, understand. You're talking about military needs. The other point of it that I thought was very compelling with it is that when these guys are up there doing that, right, the idea that like they should whip out their phone or that they should do anything to try to take a really nice picture for the rest of us is unrealistic. It costs over 30 grand an hour to operate those jets. That's what we pay as taxpayers. That's what the military puts into that budget. And so that's like, yeah, their job isn't to get a pretty picture of an alien for us. Their job is they're running missions that prepare them for deployment. So they have very specific flights they travel. They have very specific targets, passes, whatever kind of practice they're running up there. They're not there to do that. So they cannot, even if they wanted to, go off target to go pursue an alien craft that they might see because you can't do that. You have X amount of gas, you have X amount of hours, you're running a certain figure. You're not up there to take a pretty picture for all of us. So I just don't, I think that argument is also slightly weak.
Look, I think everything that Carmen said is accurate for sure. With a couple of challenges there. The fact that it seems to only be the U.S. military that lay witness. U.S.
Incorrect.
military.
Russia, China, all on board. You can look it up.
Fine. Let's just assume that
Germany.
that's true for a second.
Okay.
The SR-71, which was holds the second fastest record for plane ever at Mach 3, which is 2,000 miles an hour. Had you not known that existed, and you were in a commercial flight and you saw that craft, you would think it was absolutely alien.
Yeah, you or I, not perfectly trained like
that craft
military
was first test flown in 1966, right? So we're talking 60 years ago now. Just because these guys are pilots and understand that they're seeing something different doesn't mean they have access to everything that we've been building over the last 60 years. They're test pilots, I get it, but it doesn't mean that they're privy to all the advancements in aeronautical technologies that we've made over the last 60 years, including the F-117 and the B-2 bomber. Had you never saw those before and you saw one fly overhead right now, you would think that was from another world. Those were first test flown in the mid-1970s. So we're making the assumption that technology, propulsion technology, has not advanced in 60 years, which would be crazy.
But these guys and Ryan Graves, that they're all saying that the maneuvering of these objects are so unexplainable, and the way they turn and the speed that they pick up and the way they hover, and all of them are saying the same thing, that they've never seen anything like it, and can't explain it. So you're saying that it could possibly be another aircraft from some other place that we're not aware of just yet, and they're kind of doing a test run?
What these guys typically say is, I see craft that defy the law of physics. That's the common, I guess, talking point. You hear that a lot. These crafts defy the laws of physics. The problem I have there is that of the world-renowned physicists, Eric Weinstein, Brian Cox, Brian Greene, none of these guys have ever been consulted, right? So these guys, the best physicists in the world, we're saying we have these alien crafts, and none of them have been contacted to help decipher what this is. So who's working on these things? The C students of the world, right? So I just find it incredibly hard to believe that we have.
I don't know. I mean, our military has a history of hiding things, right? And not including the brightest minds and or the most prominent minds. Those guys are all also very well known, have books, podcasts, are frequently on things, probably in the interest of like military security and or any kind of defense that is always clandestine in our history. They would probably say, no, thanks. For somebody high profile, right? You probably want somebody that works for you and the government and can be easily controlled. Just in terms of what I've learned on the X-Files, I mean, that's not...
That's fair and accurate.
And then the other one is, okay, so if we're saying, right, it's technology that those pilots just aren't aware of, right? I will say they get very specific about what is different about it. They talk about it matching patterns that match the kind of flight patterns that they fly, like a racetrack flight pattern or anything like that. But then they mention the ability for it to turn or shift in space in a way that does not match any craft they've ever been on or been around. And so the idea, right, that it's like, okay, what if it's just part of our government testing out more badass technology that they're just not telling these pilots about? Again, when they describe how this happens, how the interactions happen, his main concern for safety is not safety in the sense of like, he's very good at being like, hey, I'm not trying to say aliens are going to come shoot us up. What I'm saying that is, as a pilot, if you are in the air with a vehicle that costs us $30,000 an hour to operate, if another craft was coming into your space, you as a pilot have to know that it's there. When will it be there? What route is it traveling? So if we had all this money invested in this technology that was even more freaking dope than that Mach whatever fighter plane, why would we be risking it in a way where like these mid collisions can happen? That's where I don't understand the argument for that. That it's like, that's basic level air safety, is that you have to know what's around you because everything up there is so expensive. Gas, cost, flight patterns, operating all of that shit is like, why would we do that?
And that's the other fallacy I have a really hard time with, is that it's a craft at all. You're not consulting any physicist or providing them the data for them to make a proper assessment of what these things can be. They could be visual tricks. They could be anything. I'm not saying that they're not crafts per se. What I'm saying is direct evidence that these things are from another world.
The data collected that is classified and protected, that's where it's like, listen, we can say it's classified and that we don't know as regular humans. However, the idea that like somebody doesn't, I find unrealistic because again, those systems in the plane are designed to collect heat signature, size, traveling at Mach 5 has been reported. All of these things that again would suggest it's not a balloon chilling up there, right? It's not like, it talks about very specific turns it makes. You have to be able to lock on a target to be able to target it with weaponry like they do in their craft. So it's like, I don't know. We don't get to see it. I get that. Like, I'd love to see that.
But what we're talking about here is that was built from an intelligent life in another potential universe or galaxy. Yeah. I don't buy that.
If you had to bet your entire life on it, what do you think those objects are that they're explaining, Jeff?
I think they are human-made, cannot say. I don't have any direct evidence as to what they are. However, I can bet my life they are not extraterrestrial.
And Carmen, if you had to bet your entire life.
I 100% want to go ET all the way. Mainly because, again, the idea of how large our system is, right? Our universe has how many galaxies? Billions?
2 trillion.
2 trillion. Thank you, Jeff. Exactly. So the idea that we would be the only ones capable of producing some kind of high level technology, or that we are alone and that they wouldn't pass through and visit, right, is confusing to me because again, that's like the idea of, that's a very like left brain pinpoint factual trying to get to it rather than using the creative side of like, let's look at the whole picture and the vastness of space and take into consideration the fact that we couldn't possibly know. And so why not
Yeah.
aliens?
No, I think
Let's
that's
go.
I think that's fair, and we should get into that a little bit because I think there's a lot of bias. That's where Fermi's paradox comes in, right? It's where Enrico Fermi is a famous Italian American physicist who in 1950 they were having lunch and debating about the size of the universe, and he famously quipped, "Well, then where is everyone?" And that's where the paradox lies: is that the universe is so vast, but yet there's no signals. It's the great silence. We've been listening for 100 years, and yet there's nobody here. And there's a common problem with visualizing the size of the universe and having that overshadow how difficult it is to create life on one of these things, one of these rocks. So if you take the math behind the four of us being here right now, famous Harvard doctor Ali Benazir, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, he famously did the math on what it would take. What are the odds for the four of us to be here as individuals, right? So you got a 1 in 20,000 chance that your parents meet. Then you got a 1 in 2,000 chance that they stay together long enough to have children and that they want children. Now you're at 1 in 40 million, which is roughly the size of the state of California. Then you have 200 million sperm chasing one egg, where if it's a millisecond off, Sean Booth is not sitting here, but somebody else with 75% of the DNA is, his imaginary brother, right? So now you're at these incredible numbers that you have to then look at 150,000 times over. So you take that math and account for the 2.5 million years that, humans have been on Earth. And the number you get is, 1 times 10 to the 2.5 million power, which, to kind of break that down, is essentially taking a dice with 1 trillion sides on it and 2 million people consecutive rolling the same number. The fact that we are here having this conversation is impossible, right? So as a side tangent, every time you're depressed about your girlfriend or your boyfriend, or every time you're having family issues, or you lose your job, you have all these trivial problems in your life, right? You have to remember the fact that you are here, you've already beaten impossible odds.
So if you say that, then how can you also say that it's impossible for aliens to exist? Like if it's impossible for the four of us to be here, but they are here,
I'm getting there.
Then where does that come from?
So you have that number, and then that's just after life is here. So if you take the amount of time that the universe has been here, which is roughly, we'll call it 14 billion years. I think the common number now is 13.8 billion years.
That's what I go with, yeah.
Earth has been here 4.5 billion years. So if you look at it kind of on a broad scale, you got the time from a single cell to civilizations. It took 4.5 billion years, right? So it's 1/3 the length of how long the universe has been alive, right? So they're in those type of terms, I would argue if we're not the first, we have to be of the first. And Carmen made actually a funny comment to me when we first started having this argument. I said, well, I believe we could be first. And she said, well, you're thinking like an ant, which I get, because you don't know somebody that well. And it comes off as we're the center of the universe. And that's not necessarily how I'm viewing it. What I wanted to, I guess, romanticize, for lack of a better term, is to how truly unique we are, and how if it took impossible odds to be here and somebody had to be first, why not us? Why aren't we the great explorers, right? So we don't just eat, sleep, and procreate. We want to build the next technologies. In the 1400s, when Columbus, he could have had just sat on his farm, right? But instead he wanted to risk his life to go across the ocean. We have this inherent built-in drive to do the next thing, to build the next thing, to see the next thing. Maybe we're the great explorers, and maybe we're the aliens.
And maybe not.
So you're saying that you're just, okay, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you're saying that we could be the first. So you're not saying that potentially in the future, we couldn't find that there are people out there, or 100%. There are other life forms. We just haven't found them yet.
Absolutely. I think that, one of the things that's hard for everyone to kind of wrap their head around is we always think that this all has to happen at the same time, right? If we had World War III and blew ourselves up and, a million years goes by, nobody knew that we were ever here, right? So we don't all have to be there. Not to say that there's not life out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Sure. But again, my thing is I love whole pictures, ideas. I understand the math and the like chances and the odds and all that, right? But that feels very narrow to me and takes out the part of the human experience that I think is very important, like culture, throughout history. In Mexican culture, in a lot of different cultures, there are stories of aliens, right? I don't think it's a good idea to disregard culture. I think a lot of useful stories, we learn a lot of valuable lessons, things have turned out true from culture. There's something in Mexican culture called the chupacabra that's a goat sucker that takes all your goats on your farm.
The old goat sucker.
Yep, that's right. And predominantly thought of as being a monster alien visitor, involves acid rain, sometimes comes out of the sky, murders all your goats, sucks the life out of them.
Is this
various things?
What is it?
Yeah,
Just like a story you share?
There was also an episode of The X-Files that covered it, which was great. I was very happy to see that. So again, that kind of thing. It's like, yes, I understand odds and like all of this, but I love full picture. I want to look at full picture. And I think disregarding culture and stories and folklore and things that have passed down for centuries through different groups of people is a big deal, and something worth considering.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
A few moments ago, my brain was like the Zach Galifianakis gif of all the numbers going around. I love how on this side of the room, we went from talking about farting on a plane to the astrophysicist over on this couch.
We are a well-rounded podcast.
That is in the booth right there, podcast in a nutshell. So that is fascinating, Jeff. I'm still trying to calculate all those numbers in my head. What you said the other day at the gym, light years.
Yeah, sure. So we reside in the Milky Way galaxy, one of 2 trillion galaxies. So when you look up at the stars at night, you're seeing the line from the Milky Way. Inside the Milky Way, there's about 400 billion stars or suns and potentially 20 billion what they call exoplanets, right? So these things are revolving around a star. They're potentially inhabitable, right? It's a large number. And one of the arguments, that people kind of throw around is we're throwing all this, we're launching rockets into space and we're shooting radio and television waves into space. We're letting everyone know that we're here. And that's really not how light works. If we looked through a telescope and looked at a star, 20,000 light years away, we're not seeing it as it is now. We're seeing it as it was 20,000 years ago, because that's how long it takes. So said differently, if somebody were to look at Earth from a telescope from 65 million light years away, they'd see dinosaurs, right? So if civilization is only 12,000 years old, right? Anything outside of 12,000 light years, they wouldn't see any people. So we're not, we're not.
Doesn't that contradict everything you're saying?
But that's assuming they're using a telescope, right? Which is like, all right, what are we assuming here? We're assuming they're more human than non. We're assuming they have only the same capabilities as us. I'm like, just a lot of assuming.
Well, that's therein lie the problem, right? So, Carmen did make a fantastic point about culture and stories. The challenge I have with some of those is
you have no culture.
Oh man, we'll talk about that one. The challenge I have with alien stories throughout time is typically that the stories are
too fun,
visualized with technology that bounds the mind at the time. So if you're talking about 1700s, they were talking about aliens coming in on flying boats, right? Because that's how they were thinking about it at the time. And it's really no different than how we're talking about it today, coming in ships, which are just more advanced airplanes. The fact that people would think that
but your vocabulary couldn't possibly go outside what you have access to, right? So so your vocabulary wouldn't have been developed enough to describe it as anything past what
the point I'm trying to make is the fact, if an advanced civilization has, defied the laws of physics to create a ship that travels significantly faster than the speed of light. I just find it hard to believe that these people are getting in a ship the same way that we get in a Subaru to go to the store, right? That's all that the limitations that they're bound by is to get in a ship and come here. There's not an advanced, way that they're just around us in more advanced airplanes. I mean, that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Maybe they're not even in the ship, right? There's that theory as well, that it's like autopiloted. So there's like,
So why do we think all this is coming out in the media now? What do we think the reasoning is for guys like this, credible guys, to come out, put their name on the line, put their life on the line, and say these things? If you think it's all kind of impossible.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a good answer for that. And again, I don't doubt that they're seeing what they're seeing. I just don't believe it to be extraterrestrial in nature. The fact that somebody again could build a craft to transcend worlds, light years, and then just crash here, right? They built the most advanced technology that we can't even visualize, and they just crash in the desert, like in Roswell. It just, I have a hard time.
But again, then consider all of your favorite science, right? And like in terms of anything that could have possibly affected the craft that maybe they weren't prepared for, that happens on our planet, within the atmosphere, within who knows, right? It's like, I mean, just because they're exceptionally advanced, they could be exceptionally advanced within their own world that may not necessarily match ours, right? There's like, so you could still talk about the fact that they could be incredibly advanced, prepared for everything within their systems, whatever, and then come somewhere that they are not as quite prepared for, and whoops.
Where do we think these, they probably didn't mention it, but where these space or aircrafts crashed?
Well, that's why I would love Grush to be actually like deposed as the whistleblower and be taken into the skiff. So they talk about the skiff. I forget what it stands for. It's like secure something, something, something. They exist in Congress. And because he has filed for official whistleblower status, it's essentially a room that is protected, that'll be videoed, that'll be monitored. He has asked multiple times. He's like, please get me in that room, fools. I can give you every single name. I can tell you where the craft is. I can tell you the names of everybody working on the program currently. I can tell you where craft was and where it got moved to. I can give you addresses, all of these things. And he has asked to be put in that room. 2 so far, it might have been 3 members of Congress have applied to get access to a skiff and were denied at first. So it's like, what the fuck's that? Huh? Like, put him in the skiff, fool. Let's hear it. What is he going to say?
Right, because if he's not in there, then he would be prosecuted if he divulges any type of information.
Yeah, and they will throw his ass in jail quick because, I mean, it's the government.
And
his
the government wants
too.
to hide this because they think, our safety's at risk, or what?
I imagine it's probably defense, as it always is, right? That's always the tactic that's used when you're doing anything, right, for control in society. It seems like getting more access to our data is because we got to protect you guys. We got to make sure we can invade on your privacy so that we can protect all of you. So it's like, I don't know. Sounds like business as usual to me in terms of the government and hiding things maybe that don't need to be hidden or putting extreme, precautions in place in the argument of we're keeping your safety in mind and defending this country.
The aliens always like to pick the U.S. They must know where it's at.
Well, and also Russia and China. Look it up.
You don't believe that other countries are talking about this as much?
Again, where's the direct evidence? We got 6 billion smartphones.
What? There are literally Russians who talk about it all the time. There's an entire program devoted to it within the Russian
people
era.
Being if you talk about the congressional testimony from last week, it wasn't the person testifying that had the direct evidence. He was referring to somebody else.
Put him in the room, though. Put him in the room. He said, "I can give you every single person's name, and I can give you every address and everything related to it." That, I think that completely disregards the fact that not a lot of people might want to come out about that, especially if you're still employed and or have reason to shut your mouth. And 2, not a lot of people have that kind of maybe moral standard or feel like it's good for the population to know things that only the Department of Defense know. And then 3, homeboy has a life and a wife and kids, I believe. And it's like, has to take into direct consideration the fact that he will be prosecuted if he opens his mouth. It's like, That sucks, man. Have you ever been to jail?
No.
Maybe
Not-
he's
not
not
yet.
cultured.
Not yet.
Yeah,
Because
Not yet.
So,
Carmen might be thrown in jail after
Yeah.
this interview. She says too much information in here. Third party here, Andrew, producer Andrew. Let's toss that mic behind him, Jeff. We're going to get another take here. Now that you've been sitting here.
So what I don't understand is if there's aliens here, I guess the theory that like they're not in the craft would hold or be the explanation to my question is they're just like coming to Earth and they're traveling light years to get to Earth to just like do a quick like lap around and like see our planes and then they're just like getting out.
They're taking
Or
notes,
they're
man.
crashing and then that's it. Why aren't they? I don't know. I guess I'm kind of on Jeff's team of like, if this is real, then I feel like more things would, if they existed, more things would happen. If they,
Like you want to see them landing
Yeah.
the
Now, I
spacecraft,
I
heading down
did-
Honky Tonk Central.
I saw the most insane TikTok ever, and we'll watch it after this. But it's like these people call 911.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
This was last month.
Is it? That's got to be fake.
that's fake.
It's like the ghoul is like
yeah, the
crouched
911
in-
call
yeah,
is
the
accurate.
911 call.
The video
No,
was
yeah.
made after the fact. That's fake. Yeah,
Dang it.
yeah.
See, like that.
Sorry.
If I see something
Yeah.
like, if we see something like that, obviously I'm in.
Yeah,
The absence, right? Yeah, but the absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence, right? Again, I don't know, man. I
I
don't
think
know.
too a problem is that in the history of the US and the world is that we have this image of what an alien looks like,
Uh-huh.
right? So that's what we think these
Sure.
aliens are.
Mhm.
When they say that they found something, some type of species on these crafts.
Yeah, he says non-human biologics,
So
which
that-
technically could be a dog, a snake, right?
But
That
it could
falls
also
under
just be like cells
correct.
and be nothing.
Yeah, yeah, not or it was cells that flew that thing. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe like super advanced cells.
It
Well, I
could
don't
be
know.
cells.
Listen,
flying
have you
that
seen
thing.
enough scary movies? I have. Shapeshifters. Yeah.
SamCat,
Hello.
what do we think?
My brain hurts physically right now, but I do think there are a lot of good points made. However, I choose to not live my life in a mindset that if there is not direct evidence, it does not exist. Because I think, like, kind of how Carmen was saying, it cuts off the creativity side. And obviously, I'm not a scientist or any of these things, but I just feel like I like that you said that, oh, we might just be the first. So like there's still open door for it to have existed. But I have to believe that there is a possibility that if we have done so far, like creating this world, that there could be another world out there. They could be way more advanced than us, that they're so good at hiding themselves because they're so much smarter than us. Like that is a possibility. We don't know that. You can't say that there's evidence against that because what if they know that you're looking for direct evidence and they've done all of their due diligence to make sure that you will not get any direct evidence? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's closed-minded to think that that's not an opportunity or that's not a possibility. Again, you said, well, how many trillions of galaxies? And we're the only ones?
So
There's
then,
no way.
But then what's it matter?
But I didn't say it
Yeah,
mattered or
no,
it
yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
I'm just saying that
Yeah.
it's possible that it exists. So
It
if
is
you're saying
possible.
it doesn't exist, then what's that matter?
Well, I guess I don't understand if you're right and they're like so intelligent that we'll never be able unless they want to be found, we will never find them. Why are we worrying about finding them?
Because it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'm worried about finding them. I'm just
Live
simply
a
saying
little,
that like
man.
they exist. Like
Sure.
I don't think that
You
just-
want to believe.
I want to believe
You're not
that.
100%
Yeah.
convinced.
No, I mean, I'm not 100% convinced on a lot of things in life, but that doesn't mean that I don't believe in them.
Mhm.
I mean, I just think that, yeah, I'm sure we could do all the data and the math and the this and the that, but that sounds fucking miserable to me. I choose to believe and be creative and just think that like like you said, you're going to stress about your boyfriend or your girlfriend today, or you're going to stress about whatever. Just like sometimes it's overwhelming to think just like how small and insignificant you are, but it's also kind of comforting.
Right. Well,
I
that's the
see both.
thing. We are so tiny and insignificant. Our
Yes.
lives are like a little grain of
Yeah.
sand that you could put on in the desert.
Yes.
The biggest desert in the world. And that's the lifespan of our lives, which is crazy to think.
That's right.
I understand that people also think, you know, how I'm saying like, oh, I choose to live like this because I enjoy being creative and I enjoy thinking that this is a possibility. I could say that like your argument, if you were, or Jeff's argument is that no, because he enjoys the fact that I need to see it right here in front of me. I need this concrete evidence in order to believe in it. It's like, okay, that's you.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. That sounds dumb to me. I don't want to participate. You do you, I'll do me. And when the aliens come down and I invite them to happy hour, your invitation will get lost in the mail.
Yep.
Hey.
That's right.
Me and Carmen are going to be the hostess with the mostess.
I'm giving them all cookies.
I do have a question for Jeff, though. Like you said, you did mention that if you don't have direct evidence, it's something to just be considered faith, that you're just believing that it exists. Do you have anything that you have in your life that you believe in that there's no hard evidence, or you just it has to be direct evidence kind of gal?
No. Yeah, make no mistake. You know, what I want there to be and what I think there is are two different things, right? Arthur Clarke said we're either alone in the universe or we're not, and both are equally terrifying. And I agree. There's something incredibly, fascinating to look up and think that there's other civilizations that made it through. There's almost an inherent bond that, hey, we made it and they made it. And I would love for there to be that. I don't see it plausible that if they are out there, they have visited us. And again, I do think there's something, for lack of a better term, romantic about, being the first explorers of the universe and being the aliens. And 2 billion years into the future, there's a statue of humans on every planet, the godfathers of interplanetary travel. There's something to that for me. But while I'm not religious, sure, I think there absolutely is something out there that I have no direct evidence of. And that's what faith is.
When I talk to people, it's like, do you believe in aliens? They're like, no. Do you believe in God? Yes.
Yeah.
I imagine they might make the argument for like the Bible, right? A lot of religions and or have some kind of Quran or something.
But they weren't there when it was written.
Exactly.
So they don't know. What if it doesn't have to do with aliens and stuff? I'm talking like, you're saying romanticizing us being the first explorers. What about like, I don't know, this is a stretch, but I'm just saying like something faith, like something's going to work out. It's going somehow everything lines up for you in your own personal life. I'm not talking about aliens. I'm talking about like right here on Earth in Nashville, when you wake up in the day, do you have to be like, oh, like are you a guy that doesn't believe in coincidence? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you the guy that's like, no, this happened because of this and that's how I got here?
I'm quite the opposite.
Okay.
I live my life. Kismet is what brought me to Nashville and to Chicago before that. And
wait, doesn't this contradict everything you're saying then?
It's called the domino effect.
Yeah, no, it
Jeff
doesn't.
has some interesting
we're
habits.
we're talking about extraterrestrials. You have to put that in an entirely separate bucket.
But isn't it kind of the same of one?
Well, you're blending the line between faith in a God versus other intelligent life. And
or something like
categories
love.
And
like, can you physically hold love?
Yeah.
Do you have proof of love? Is there direct proof and direct evidence of love?
Sure.
Okay, what is it?
Yeah, but only to you, right? Like, can I see it visually? Can you show it to me in data points?
Can I hold it?
Yeah, can I hold it right here?
Can you hold oxygen?
Again, but that's our point.
But that's what I'm saying. No, you can't. That's what I'm saying. I believe that it's there. It's like, I mean, I've never seen $1 trillion, but I know it exists.
Right. I saw a big eye roll over there, Jeff.
I mean, so to answer your question directly, yes, I absolutely believe in things that I cannot see.
Perfect. Okay. But just when it comes to extraterrestrial, you're like, you guys, this is
certain
horseshit.
topics, right?
Sure.
I don't think extraterrestrials are here, but do I believe in love and coincidences and kismet and karma? Sure, absolutely.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure you weren't a complete psychopath,
No,
but that makes me feel a lot better. You're just
How
like,
dare
you know what? It takes
How
all
dare
kinds
you.
of kinds. We want you to keep it interesting. I appreciate that. Just wanted to make sure.
The Loch Ness Monster.
Love it. Nessie, let's go.
No.
Carmen's like, how much more time you got?
It's been the same photo for 80 years. We're not going there.
Yeah, or Bigfoot. Don't believe in that.
No.
He'd be shot down by now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with those things either. So I feel like in the same way you're saying that you don't necessarily believe in the UFOs or the extraterrestrial, but you believe in things here. Like,
Sure.
I don't know that Bigfoot is really on my list of things that I believe in, but I do think that there's life out there somewhere.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
can be both.
It could be both. I think it's fun to believe. What about
Yeah.
ghosts?
Hell yeah. 100%.
See, I'm on the side of, and this is kind of contradicting, but I've never seen one. I want to believe, but until I actually see a ghost, I don't think I believe in ghosts.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It is.
Mhm.
I love horror movies. Love them. So I would like to. Yeah, of course I've never personally experienced it. However, again, I will point to culture. We'll say there is a lot in Hispanic culture in terms of getting the bad juju out of your house. I mean, there's so many different things. Palo Santo burning that around after somebody has passed in a house. I mean, there's just, and it feels good when you do it. You know what I mean? So it's like another system of beliefs, you know?
But you're not a big believer in ghosts.
I'm not super like, I don't want to like go on ghost tours or like try and see one or anything because
But
I'm
a
not
big
sure they're
believer in
really there.
aliens.
But yeah, for sure.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. So we
Yep.
kind of, you believe in some things you don't. Like
Mhm.
Jeff believes in
Mhm.
love, doesn't believe in aliens.
Mhm.
Correct.
Carmen believes in aliens, doesn't believe in ghosts.
I believe in everything. Throw Santa Claus in there. That
Yeah.
guy's lit.
Santa Claus is real. We all know that.
I know.
Some things I guess we'll never know, or maybe we will know. I think in our lifetime, we are going to see something that is.
What if we drop this podcast and then like next week, I feel like the trigger word of the show, direct evidence drops.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to move.
Just like I'm out,
I
actually.
just got settled here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fair. We'll have you back on
All
and
right.
we can undo all of the
Yeah.
things we've done.
Well,
I
yeah.
hope you get abducted, Jeff.
Oh
And
I meant that in
that,
the best possible way.
damn. That hurts.
I hope I never see you again, is what she just said to you.
Until then, we'll keep the debate alive. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you guys for coming on.
Whew.
Team on 3.
1, 2, 3.